Welcome to Gray Matter Reports. Today, we decode the complex reality of events that unfold around us. In the dim light of a sterile room, a subject sits, eyes downcast. The air is thick with unspoken thoughts, a heavy silence echoing the weight of choices unmade. This is not merely a conversation. It is an exploration of the mind, a descent into the circuitry of conscience and consequence. Neuroscience reveals a labyrinth, a complex web of connections that dictate behavior. Each synapse, each neurotransmitter, is a decision point. In this landscape, impulses collide with morality, shaping an individual's trajectory. The amygdala, the emotional core, ignites at the hint of perceived threat. It whispers urgency, a primal call to action. Yet the prefrontal cortex, the seat of reasoning, holds a mirror to the consequences of those actions. Herein lies the battlefield of choice. A mild tremor interrupts the subject's stillness. It speaks of conflict buried deep within. The narrative unfolds, revealing a tapestry woven from threads of circumstance and biology. What leads one to tread the path of ethics, while another veers into darkness? It is a question steeped in complexity. The subject's story is not unique. It is a reflection of the human condition, entwined with environment, genetics, and neural architecture. Consider the role of biological evidence. The subject's brain scans reveal patterns, illuminating the interplay of reward and punishment, fear and indifference. Each color on the screen signifies an emotional response, a choice made or ignored. The stark contrast between areas activated during moments of empathy versus those driven by self-preservation becomes evident. This is not simply a matter of right or wrong. It is a biological imperative, a dance of neurons responding to stimuli. In a moment of vulnerability, the subject recalls a choice made long ago. The expression is one of regret, a fleeting glimpse into the fragmented psyche. What if that choice had been different? Would the neural pathways have forged an alternate reality? Each decision is a fork in the road, each choice a step deeper into the labyrinthine psyche. As the narrative builds, the somber reality sets in. Choices are rarely clear-cut. They are layered, influenced by myriad factors, both internal and external. The subject's journey encapsulates the essence of buried choices, a poignant reminder that beneath the surface lies a complex interplay of neuroscience and morality. In the end, the clinical findings converge with the human experience. It is a poignant reflection on the choices that shape us, binding the individual and the collective in a shared narrative of consequence. Each choice remains buried, yet echoes through the corridors of the mind, whispering the stories of what could have been. The room felt sterile, almost suffocating in its clinical precision. A solitary figure sat across the table, eyes dull, expression vacant. Behind him, a one-way mirror reflected glimpses of the unseen observers, scrutinizing every twitch, every breath. The atmosphere was heavy with unspoken questions, a palpable tension. Dr. Miriam Hale, a behavioral neuroscientist, leaned in. "Tell me about your childhood," she prompted softly. The subject shifted, discomfort rippling through him. Memories like jagged glass pierced the surface of his mind. "Nothing special," he replied, the words escaping in a flat tone. His life, a series of disconnected snapshots, began to unfold. A fractured home, isolation, moments of rage that felt misplaced yet familiar. Dr. Hale noted the signs of an antisocial profile. The pieces were there, but they needed careful assembly. As she probed deeper, the room transformed. It became a labyrinth of choices, each corridor leading to darker realms. "Did you ever feel the need to hurt others?" she inquired, her voice steady. A flicker of something, a shadow of understanding, crossed his face. He hesitated, wrestling with the question. "Sometimes," he finally admitted, the word hanging in the air like a specter. The admission hung heavily, an acknowledgement of buried choices. Dr. Hale's pen danced across the notepad, capturing the nuances of his psyche. Neuroscience teaches us that the brain is a complex network of circuits. In this case, certain pathways had been rewired, leading to distorted perceptions of morality. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and impulse control, showed signs of diminished activity. The biological evidence was clear. "Your brain is reacting differently," she explained gently. "It's as if choices are filtered through a fog." The subject nodded, comprehension dawning slowly, like a reluctant sunrise. "Does it feel like you're living in a different reality?" He considered her question, his gaze turning inward. "Sometimes, yes. I don't feel what others feel. A clinical detachment enveloped him, a barrier between his consciousness and society. It was a cognitive dissonance, a disconnection from the very fabric of empathy. Dr. Hale continued, her tone unwavering. What you describe is not uncommon among those with your profile. Your choices, while influenced by biology, are still your own. The weight of responsibility loomed large, a confrontation with self that felt both liberating and suffocating. As the session drew to a close, the subject remained an enigma. Choices buried beneath layers of conditioning and circumstance, waiting for the light of understanding. The case conclusion was not a resolution, but rather an invitation to explore the complexity of the human experience, a journey into the heart of darkness that lay within us all. In the shadows of the human psyche, choices linger like echoes in a cavern. Each decision, however subtle, has the potential to carve pathways that resonate throughout a life. The psychological bridge often spans the divide between intention and action, a frail construct shaped by myriad influences. Neuroscience reveals that our brains are not simply vessels of thought. They are intricate networks, constantly adapting and rewiring. The antisocial profile is a complex amalgam of genetics, environment, and experience. A child raised in chaos may internalize aggression as normalcy, while another, nurtured in tranquility, may view the world through a lens of empathy. Each path diverges, creating neural highways that dictate responses to the world. Consider the role of choice in shaping identity. When an individual stands at a crossroads, the weight of their history presses upon them, a force both invisible and palpable. The decision to heed societal norms or to succumb to darker impulses often hinges on the architecture of the mind. In one individual, a moment of anger may lead to a harmful act, justified by a lifetime of perceived injustices. In another, the same moment may evoke reflection, steering them back to restraint. The bridge between thought and deed is often fraught with conflict. A well-studied phenomenon illustrates that the brain's reward system can override ethical considerations. The promise of immediate gratification can eclipse the quiet whispers of conscience. When faced with temptation, the neural circuitry of reward lights up, pushing aside the cautionary tales embedded within the mind. As these choices accumulate, they shape not just the individual, but the fabric of society. A single decision can ripple outward, impacting countless lives. The biological evidence gathered in cases reveals patterns. Individuals who have traversed this psychological bridge often exhibit similar traits: impulsivity, a lack of empathy, and an inability to foresee consequences. Yet, beneath this clinical analysis lies a sobering truth. Each individual is a tapestry of experiences, woven with threads of trauma, resilience, and often regret. The psychological bridge they traverse is not merely a pathway to consequence. It is a testament to their journey. In the end, the choices made reflect not only the individual's internal state, but also the external influences that shape them. Understanding this bridge is crucial. It offers insight into the very nature of conscience, a compass that, when calibrated correctly, guides individuals away from the precipice toward a more compassionate existence. In the quiet hum of the laboratory, neural pathways flicker like distant stars. Each synapse, a whisper of choice, binds the individual to a labyrinth of conscience. Here, beneath the surface, lies the deep dive into the mind, a journey into the murky waters of decision-making. An antisocial profile emerges, its contours shaped by both biology and environment. The brain, a vessel of impulses, carries the weight of choices made and unmade. Each choice reverberates through the amygdala, where fear and aggression dance in a delicate balance. The subject's upbringing intertwines with their neural circuitry, forging connections that dictate behavior. What drives an individual to the precipice of moral ambiguity? A study reveals a striking correlation between childhood trauma and diminished empathy. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive functions, becomes a fragile edifice, often under siege. When wiring is compromised, the ability to discern right from wrong falters. The individual, adrift in a sea of impulses, may find solace in the shadows. Biological evidence suggests a chilling truth. Certain genetic markers predispose individuals to impulsivity. The dopamine pathways, often hijacked, turn pleasure into a fleeting ghost. The subject, in pursuit of satisfaction, may overlook the ramifications of their actions. In this neurochemical landscape, conscience becomes a distant echo, drowned out by the sirens of desire. As the narrative unfolds, the clinical gaze shifts to the decision-making process itself. Each moment of choice is a crossroad, a point of divergence. The brain weighs the consequences, yet the scales can tip with alarming ease. An individual may choose immediate gratification, disregarding the turmoil it unleashes. It is a paradox of freedom, shackled by unseen chains of biology. The case conclusion draws nearer. Patterns emerge from the chaos. The interplay of environment and biology reveals a sobering reality. Choices are rarely black and white. The neural underpinnings of conscience are convoluted, often obscured by layers of experience. In the final analysis, the deep dive into the mind reveals more than just a narrative of crime. It unveils the intricate tapestry of human experience. Each thread, woven with intention and consequence, forms a picture of struggle. The individual, caught in the tide of their own making, grapples with the weight of choices buried deep within. The exploration of their psyche becomes not just a quest for understanding, but a reflection of our collective humanity. A reminder that beneath the surface lies a world of complexity, waiting to be uncovered. In the shadows of global cities, the narrative of crime unfolds like a haunting symphony. Each note, a decision made, reverberates through society, altering the course of lives. The weight of choice presses upon the shoulders of every individual, yet the burden is not equally shared. In some regions, the very fabric of community is frayed by systemic inequities. In others, cultural narratives shape the understanding of morality in ways that obscure the line between right and wrong. Neuroscience reveals the intricacies of the human mind, mapping the neural pathways that govern behavior. It draws a stark connection between the biological evidence found in the brain and the choices made by individuals. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and impulse control, is often the battleground between rational thought and primal instinct. In high-stress environments, this delicate balance can tip, leading some to adopt an antisocial profile. Here, the question arises, are they products of their environment or architects of their fate? In the heart of urban decay, sociocultural factors loom large. Poverty, lack of education, and exposure to violence can warp the moral compass. An individual raised in a community where ethical boundaries are blurred may be more susceptible to veering into the shadows. The choices they make often stem from a survival instinct rather than a conscious embrace of wrongdoing. In this light, we see not only the individual, but also the collective, a web of influence woven by history and circumstance. Contrastingly, in affluent societies, the narratives shift. Here, privilege can breed a different kind of disregard for consequence. The weight of choice transforms into a dance of denial and justification. Individuals may rationalize their actions through a veneer of sophistication, cloaked in the language of entitlement. The brain, however, remains the same. It is still susceptible to the same impulses, regardless of socioeconomic status. The global perspective reveals a chilling truth. Morality is often a reflection of context. As we analyze crime through the lens of neuroscience, we uncover a tapestry of interconnected choices. Each thread, a life lived under the influence of myriad factors: genetic predispositions, environmental stimuli, and personal experiences. The case conclusion becomes a mosaic of human complexity, inviting us to ponder the profound implications of conscience. Ultimately, the narrative of crime and conscience transcends borders. It is a universal tale, echoing through the chambers of the mind, challenging us to confront the buried choices within ourselves. As we delve deeper into this exploration, we must ask, how much of our morality is truly ours, and how much is molded by the world around us? The courtroom's air was thick with anticipation, a palpable tension that seeped into the very fabric of the wood-paneled walls. Jurors shifted uneasily in their seats, the weight of responsibility pressing down like a leaden shroud. Outside, the world continued its rhythm, unaware of the seismic shifts occurring within these four walls. The subject sat, a study in contradictions. Composed yet trembling, the individual's gaze flickered between the judge and the jury, seeking understanding, or perhaps absolution. Each moment stretched like elastic, caught between the narratives of guilt and innocence. The prosecution's case, framed with meticulous biological evidence, painted a portrait of an antisocial profile. Here was a mind both intriguing and unsettling, a labyrinth of choices made and unmade. The defense countered with a narrative of circumstance, a plea for empathy amidst the chaos of a fractured psyche. They spoke of neurobiology, the way neurons fire in patterns that can lead to decisions misaligned with social norms. Their argument was laced with clinical precision, invoking studies that linked impulse control to brain function. In this somber theater, the mind became the battleground, a place where the conscious and unconscious collided. As the closing statements approached, the atmosphere thickened. Each word became a weapon, wielded with surgical precision. The prosecutor's voice rang out, echoing off the walls, a stark reminder of the choices that led to this moment. The subject's life, now reduced to a series of decisions, some made in fleeting seconds, others buried deep in the marrow of memory. The defense, undeterred, offered a counterpoint. They illuminated the complexities of the human brain, a tangled web of genetics and environment, of nurture and nature. They argued for understanding over condemnation, presenting the mind as a fragile ecosystem, susceptible to the shadows of its history. The closing arguments hung in the air, heavy with implications. The jury, now stewards of fate, grappled with the question of culpability. The final verdict loomed, an inevitable culmination of conflicting narratives, each one a reflection of humanity's darkest corners and brightest possibilities. In a moment that felt both fleeting and eternal, the gavel struck. A sound that reverberated through time, marking not just a conclusion, but a crossroads of choices. The individual's fate, now sealed by a collective decision, lingered in the air like smoke, haunting the conscience of everyone present. The weight of judgment settled like dust, reminding all that every choice carries a consequence, echoing long after the final verdict is rendered.